Okay, we're going to continue on with this. So this is 8.6, part 2, because we've already started this. So I want to talk about maybe writing an equation. If I give you an equation and then tell you how it's moved. So these are transformations. So I'm going to write out the basics. Now this isn't being dilated. If there was a dilation, that would change the radius, because then if I was making the circle bigger or smaller. But since that's not happening, the radius is still going to be 5, where the radius squared is 25. It's the center of the circle that's moving. So originally this was at 11, and then I moved it to the right 1. So what's 11 plus 1? Then this was originally at 10 for the y direction. So I'd gone up 10. Now we're moving up 4. So then where are we at? 14. And then that's your equation. So it was much easier than the last example. Okay, now I'm telling you a center, and then I'm telling you a line that it's tangent to. So you also have to remember what tangent means in terms of circles. So I'm going to kind of sketch this out. So if I have the center at 5, 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I have the center of the circle here. Okay, I don't know what the radius is, but I do know that it's tangent to x is -3. So I need a -3 here. 1, 2, 3. So that line is right here. Well, tangent just means that it's coming in and touching the circle at one point at a 90-degree angle. So we're going to look here and say, okay, well, that is the y value. Tangent means it touches it and meets it at a 90-degree angle. So the radius is going to have to be that distance. So I'm going to look at the x value because it gave me an x equation of a line. So how do I get from -3 to 5? Well, I'm going to subtract it. So I take 5 minus -3, or think about it this way, distance of 5 to get to 0, a distance of 3 more to get to -3. So the radius is 8. So I'm going to write the equation x minus 5, because it gave me the 5 squared, plus y minus 4, it gave me the 4 squared, equals, I don't put 8, because this is the radius squared. So what is 8 squared? 64. I like this problem because it allows you to use a lot of what you already know in math to solve a problem. So you're kind of getting to the point where it's all coming together to help you solve problems. Okay, now we're going to do a quick review of completing the square, because we're going to need that to solve some problems with circles. So the first thing that I want to know is, let's figure out what is going to go here and what it's equivalent to. Now remember, completing the square is because I want to make this whole thing, I want to make it so that I can rewrite it as something squared. So to do that, I'm going to take half of this value, okay, that's what goes here, and I'm going to square it to get that value. So if I'm going to actually write, we'll ignore this for a second. Actually, I think this is on another slide. So if I were to rewrite this, and actually multiply this out, I get x times x is x squared plus 4x plus 4x plus 16. I wrote it as 4 squared. The reason is because this is my 2 times this. So that's why we take half the number to figure out what goes there, because it's going to be added together. And then we take this and square it so that we get that end term. Okay, let's try this one. We're going to take half of this number, and then we're going to square it. So I can say that the y equals x squared minus 2x plus 1 from that is the same thing as if I did x minus negative 1. So I'm really adding 1. So those are the same. Now, if I have an odd number, it's still doable. I'm going to take that odd number, split it in half. I'm just going to leave it as a fraction. And then I'm going to square it. So I get 25/4. So when I rewrite this, I get x squared plus 5x plus the 25/4. That's the same thing as if I wrote x plus 5/2 squared. Now, if we're actually working with an equation, and we have to add this in ourselves instead of just figuring out what it should have been, if I have to add that in, I need to adjust because you have to keep an equation balanced. So we're going to use that to do the last piece, which is to write these in standard form. Now, with circles, I'm going to have to complete the square twice. So I'm going to look at it in terms of, here is an x. So I'm going to take half of this number, So I'm going to say x plus 3 squared. And what is 3 squared? 9. There's a 9 there, so that's good. So this is equivalent to this. Then I'm going to look here and say, okay, half this number, square it, and that's what I have there. So I can rewrite this as y minus 1 squared. So then to rewrite this entire equation in standard form so I can see what it is that, or what the center of the circle is, x plus 3 squared plus y minus 1 squared equals 49. Now this one was a little easier because it was kind of already grouped together. If you don't have something grouped together, you're going to have to adjust. So on this one, I have this x squared minus 2x. There's not a number here. That's okay. So when I approach these problems, I actually write them like this. So I put my x squared, then an x, and then I leave a space. And then y squared, y, which I don't have, leave a space. And then I'm going to fill in information to make this work. So what is half of -2? -1. So my goal is to rewrite this as x minus 1 squared. Well, what is -1 squared? 1. So that's what needs to go here. I added that myself, though. It wasn't there originally. So what I need to do is also add it over here. That keeps it balanced. I've added 1 to both sides of the equation. Now, because there isn't another y term, you could think about it as 0y, but it's just the y squared. And then I add together that side, so 8 plus 1 is 9. Okay. And then our last one, I might do one more example depending on the time. So I'm going to rewrite this. So I have x squared plus 4x space plus y squared minus 6y space equals 12. So looking at the x's, half of 4 is 2. 2 squared is 4. So I add 4 to both sides. This allows this to be rewritten as x plus 2 squared. Then I'm going to look at the y. Half of -6 is -3. -3 squared is 9. So I'm adding 9 right there. And when I add 9, I have to add that to the other side as well. Make sure you guys can see that. Then this is written as y minus 3 squared because it matches this piece right here. And then for the radius of the circle, I have to combine all of these. So what is 12 plus 4? That's 16. Plus 9 is 25. That's the equation of the circle. Okay, if, I'm not going to do an actual full example, but this may not have been given to you in this order. Maybe it gave it to you like, maybe you had this. So x squared plus y squared minus 12 equals -4x plus 6y. What you would have to do is get it set up to where you have x's, y's, numbers. So I like this x. I don't like the 4x to be away from it, so I'm going to add 4x to both sides. And then I'm going to leave a space. And then I like having the y squared there. I don't like having this 6y over here. So I'm going to subtract 6y from both sides and stick it with the y. Leave a space. I don't like having a number over here with my x's and y's. So I'm going to add, to get rid of the negative, 12 to both sides. And then I get 0, 0, 12. And then it's set up to solve. So you might have to rearrange a little bit first. So that is equations of circles. have fun.